when I was broken in that bed, crying because I might not ever walk again, I still never stopped. And that's what I want all of us to feel. That's what I mean about being self-motivated, self-developing your life and your world. You know what I mean? It's like, it's up to all of us. I can't do this without you. And if you don't join me on the social media, join these groups, add your 2 cents, we're going to fail. You are the most important part, because it's all of us together that can make this happen. And without you, we got nothing.
Most people have written off our guest today when he was only a child. He was born with a lazy eye, which made him legally blind in one eye. He had dyslexia and other learning disabilities, and he struggled with reading, writing, and math. Little was known about learning disabilities at the time, so learning and adapting to life's challenges at an early age was extremely difficult for him. He learned to compensate and even become an avid reader and listener to books with a lot of extra effort on his part, and with the support of his mother, sister, a special teacher, and an aide from Services for the Blind and the Handicapped. It's also important to note that along with these disabilities came some great gifts that allowed him to do and see things that others could not. He went on to not only graduate from high school as the vice president of the student body, but he also went on to earn degrees in speech and communications, religious studies, and Eastern philosophy. Welcome to the show, author of The Way and founder of the Seventh Foundation, Andrew Calderella.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me on your show. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Man, yeah. Thank you guys. If you're watching right now on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, however you're tuning into this thing, iHeartRadio, we love you being here. And Andrew, I love having you on the show. You know me, I have a soft spot for the comeback story, and you have comeback stories. Not even the right way to put it. Just you've overcome a lot of adversities in your life. They never defined you. Maybe in the moment they did, but in the big picture, the big grand scheme of it all, totally do not define you. And everyone tuning in, I want you to think about Andrew's story. And I did a little bit longer setup because I wanted you to really understand what his life was like before you see all the successes that he's had now. Didn't start off that way. And I know that we don't always have the same story. We don't all have maybe a physical, whether it's blindness or, something that's kind of holding us up, or a learning disability like we talked about at the top of the show there. But we all have something that we need to learn and grow through. And so when I have guests like yourself, Andrew, on the show, it's to not only help me, I'm kind of like your first audience member, it's of course helping our audience out, the mic'd up universe, I call it. So thank you for being here. I know you're going to serve so many people, not only in the moment today, but also when people tune into this thing in the future. And thank you so much for taking, an hour out of your day to be here with us.
Oh, thank you. No worries. I'm really, really thankful to be here. It's been a long road, as you mentioned.
Yeah, we're going to dive into it and kind of go down that long road as well. What I'm going to do is have all your social media links clickable in the show notes, so it's really easy for people to connect with you. I know you have over 20,000 connections on LinkedIn, so you're a well-connected man. You also have your website, which I'm going to make clickable, so people can check that out as well. And anything you want to tag or get people to tune into, just let me know. There's The Way. The book is out. We'll have a link clickable to purchase the book as well. So Andrew, I want to get kicked off here. Something that I thought about when I was kind of doing your intro is how somebody's shortcoming can really become their superpower. And I kind of teased that with the line. I'm going to go back here and just talk about how it's also important to note that along with these disabilities come some great gifts that allowed you to do and see things other could not. Can you start us off with that? What's your superpower that came out of your shortcoming?
A lot of people that are on this spectrum, they call it, when you have dyslexia or learning disabilities, a lot of times it comes with some gifts. So people, as I went through college and I've been tested me out to be a genius in abstract thinking, these other areas. Some people call me a polymath, but it really doesn't mean I'm really great at everything, right? Because I still am not doing major math problems, remembering huge lists, and I have other issues, right? So it's learning how to compensate for those that allowed me to achieve more. And with the gifts I had, it allowed me to find a lot of different golden threads and weave them together in a way that created a greater truth for people. And that's why this is called The Way, because what I was able to do is find a lot of these golden threads. And as I kept sharing them with people, they kept saying, yeah, that is right. That is a universal truth. You need to share that with people. And in 2015, I kind of put all this together. I found my references to This is Key to True Success over and over again in my writings. And I put them all together, and I really discovered the 7 steps to the way and how I could explain all of these details in a way that would make sense to people. Because, as you know, we're only as strong as our weakest link. So if you're weak in your relationships, your health, your finances, whatever it may be, the different major part of your life falls apart, it can seriously ruin you. And my biggest frustration was, after reading all these thousands of books and studying all of these lives of the most successful people, was that there wasn't like a definitive guide that put it all together. It was like you needed to find 50,000 books and you get little pieces together. And, by the time you're 50 years old, you're like, hey, I just learned something I wish I knew when I was a kid, right? So we all hate that. So I wanted to do was kind of take the summation of all of human knowledge on how to be our best and create a better world and put it in one book. We actually broke it up into 3 because it would be too big for one. But the idea is that now we can get all of this knowledge and then kind of stand together and walk together and create a better world, because we can't create a better world unless we're better people. And this gives us that foundation, that starting point that we can all kind of gather on and agree to and then move forward. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that's incredible. I love that you took these situations in your life, so a lot of it, that you had to work through, and learning disabilities that you had, take time to get through, and some of them physical that you got through over time. And it's not like, okay, well, now that you're feeling better, you're doing better, and you're able to succeed in life. And I know you've had many jobs along the way, and before you became an entrepreneur and kind of into your author role that you're in now and public speaker, there's so much more to your story. But you could have easily been like, man, I'm just happy that I'm doing well now. And wow, I really overcame a lot of stuff. And I'm just grateful for this, which is great. And then you turned the page and said, now I'm going to help other people out. And that's what I love. That's why I wanted you on the show, because you're doing this in a way where you're like, if I could learn all this stuff from my story, how can I turn it around and deliver it in a clear and concise way to help others out? That's really what the book has become. And so you said there's 7 really key things to break down in the way. You can articulate it much better than I just did, but can you share what the 7 are and kind of a little bit about each one?
Sure. Let me just touch on my story a little bit too, because I think it's important for people to know, with the dyslexia and the patch over my and everything, I was bullied relentlessly as a kid. And it got to the point where, I don't know, I was a very energetic kid, very happy, but it took it all away, because you wake up and you're, just tormented every day. Eventually, you just don't want to wake up anymore. You certainly don't want to be in a world where people are trying to drown you and mocking you and, just treating you horribly all the time. So I definitely, while I have overcome these things, I definitely have scars. And I think it's important for people to realize that if you traumatize children when they're young, even if they overcome it, there's still issues that they're probably going to have for the rest of their life, because it was done to them as a child when they didn't have the capacity to deal with it. And this created a lifelong struggle for me. That's why I've done videos on how to overcome negative thinking, depression, and suicide, and addiction, and everything else, because this type of society where bullies rule and, we kind of punish the victims leads us to a place where a lot of the victims, they either lash out violently or go totally introvert and don't want to deal with the world anymore. And I always wanted to do so much, and be a part of everything. And it was just so frustrating. And as I grew and I became bigger and my patch came off and I was able to compensate more, it was less noticeable. But I also became very angry at the other boys that picking on people. And so I ended up being more of a protector and standing up for people. I became a bouncer in college. I've broken up so many fights, I can't even tell you, knife fights, whatever. Been in so many different fights. And all of these lessons really taught me how important it is for humanity to really understand what it is to be human. And you mentioned the book. So the way starts out answering a couple big questions before we get into the details. And when I'm doing the training, I'm doing this training series, just so you know, everybody, I know that not everybody wants to read a 400-page book. So I'm doing trainings online, and there's a free one called Life Essentials Masterclass. And in that, I answer a lot of the big questions that's in the book, and I actually outline the book. And it's like what is the meaning of life? What is the true goal of life? How do we achieve this true goal of life? What does it mean to be a good person? What does it mean to fall to the dark side? What is the goal of your life? Like, what are you really trying to achieve? Why are we here? All of these big questions I answer first before we get into the details of, how to structure your mind and your eat properly and sleep and deal with your relationships and all of that, because everybody seems to feel that, if you start big and you get everybody on the same page, it makes it easier to digest the details. And it also, for me, really kind of sets the stage on your whole mission of why you're here. You know what I mean? I think that's one of the biggest questions people have. They always talk about the meaning of life. What is the meaning of life?
Yeah.
So I could share some of that with you.
Yeah, absolutely. The meaning of life, but also, our purpose, right? So I think that's all connected. Our why, you hear that a lot. Simon Sinek really brought that to the forefront, which I thought was great.
Absolutely.
Talking about a business's why you choose to do business with one and not another. And you don't even necessarily realize it as a consumer. But now when you break it down through his analysis, it makes a lot of sense. But also the word motivation is different to me than the word inspiration. You can try to motivate someone to do something, get in their face. You're a coach, come on, 100 sit-ups, you can do it. 75, only 25 more. And someone's yelling in your face to try to motivate you. Or they can inspire you to do it because they're telling you, hey, if you want to walk your daughter down the aisle, brother, like you better get your shit together because your health is not what it needs to be. And I'm 36 years old. So if a guy came to me and said, let's get you in better shape so you can, experience a long, beautiful life with your daughter and the rest of your family, now I'm inspired. I'm not getting someone yelling at me to motivate me. So I think purpose has to come from within, right? And it's an inspiring moment when you say, my purpose is this. And it's usually bigger than just us, right? We want success for ourselves, finance, take care of the family, but that can really kind of get stale if it's not something bigger, at least for me. I'll speak for myself. So can you talk about how somebody, what you recommend if somebody's struggling right now saying, man, I don't know what my purpose is. What's a good way for them to kind of get out of their head and into their heart and start to dissect it a little bit?
Sure. Well, we got a few minutes. I'll do a quick rundown of the meaning of life and the rules of life, and then we'll come up with the meaning of life, and then we'll get into the primary purpose because it kind of all follows. Before we get into this, the meaning of life, they talk about it. It's the answer to it is 42. I don't know if you've seen the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but that's the kind of joke. But,
no, I haven't seen it yet.
But really, the answer to find the meaning of life, we really have to understand the rules of life. When we talk about the rules of life, you ever seen the Child's Game of Life on the board game? You ever seen that?
Oh, yeah.
They have it comes in a box, right? It's got a board, got pieces you move on, and as you move along the game, you make some choices, but then some random things happen to you to determine if you make it or fail in life, right? And our life is like that too. The rules of life we call the human conditions, and there are these big things like the universal conditions that have to do with things like gravity and day and night and entropy and space-time and all these kind of big things. And then there's human-centric conditions that really have to do with us. The fact that we need food, that we're born and it takes so long for us to mature, and that we actually die, that we need all these different inputs if we're really going to become the best person we are going to be, right? And these human conditions and the universal conditions, if you really analyze them, they really boil down to, I'm doing a quick job on just so you know, this is covered in detail on the masterclass, but they boil down to self-creation, self-control, and societal development, meaning all of this focus really is about you, right? Figuring out how to create yourself from a little baby into a full human. And you need to control this whole process if you're really going to be the best person you can be. And it's all done. You're not an island unto yourself. You're all placed in a society. So the society hopefully is conducive, and you need to help create a better society in which you live so that the future generations can also have a chance. So this whole idea of self-creation, self-control, and societal development really play a key role in everything that we do. Pretty much everything I talk about is based on those three conditions, because you look at the meaning of life then, if we literally have to create ourselves from a little baby into an adult, the meaning of life is found in making your life meaningful, right? Or finding meaning in this life that you're living. And the question is like, okay, so that's great. So how do we make ourselves a meaningful life? What does that actually look like? And so the next big block I go through is, what is the true goal of life? And besides going through all of that, and again, I'll do it really quickly. If you study human history, we often tie success to wealth, power, and fame, sometimes beauty, holiness, or even intelligence. But if you study the lives of these people, it doesn't mean that automatically when you have wealth or power or fame, that you become happy and you know what to do with your life. You're automatically healthy. Everything is working out great. If anything, it's the opposite. You get more pressure. There's more stress. There's more worries. And if you don't know how to handle them, it can certainly corrupt you and ruin you. And we can see that throughout history, right? I don't really need to go into that. You can plainly see the kings and the queens stuffing their houses with gold instead of taking care of the people and all the rest. So if the true goal of life is not to stuff your house with gold, wealth, power, and fame, and those are just challenges and roles we fill, what is it? And just to cut to the chase, I say it like this. It's like what a loving parent or a mother wants for their child. They want them to be healthy and happy, have great relationships, have something they're really passionate about, hopefully that they can do as a living, that they not only survive, but makes their life thrive, right? And all the other pieces that makes up this wonderful life. And that's really what we all want, right? We all want this wonderful life where we have all of these different pieces working together to help create happiness and well-being and all the rest that we really are after. So then the question is like, okay, so that's great. We understand the meaning of life. We understand the true goal. So how do we do it? And then that's why I have the 7 steps. And then we go through the way is really about integrating virtues and best practices into your life. I call it living rational positive action. These are the 4 pieces to the solution that all of humanity has been seeking. And if you look at most of the solutions, they have 1 or more of these pieces, meaning we need to live this. This can't be something we just do. We go up to a mountain once in a while and become enlightened, and then all of a sudden we go back to our life and it's gone. It has to be something we can actually live. It's living rational because it's got to be reasonable and logical. It's got to be holistic. It's got to cover all of our life. It's got to include happiness and everything else that we want. So it's living rational, positive, because the positive is about the good. It's about integrating the ultimate good into our lives, which humans define as virtues. And there are 1,000 different virtues, right? Being disciplined and dedicated and happy and healthy and all these things, right? But each virtue, to make it real in your life, you have to take certain actions. And I call these actions, that's why it's living rational, positive action. The best actions to take are called best practices. And with every virtue, there is 1 or more best practices that you can implement to help make yourself a better person. Just example, punctuality, right? You got to have the best practices of leaving on time, setting reminders, being healthy. You're going to have a lot of best practices, right? Around food and sleep and exercise and everything else. So what we've discovered over the last few thousand years is there are a lot of best practices. And if everybody just knew what they were in all these different areas, we could integrate them into our life. And then because it takes about 90 days to build a habit, if you do that for 90 days, you integrate that and it becomes part of who you are. This is how we become better and better people. That's what the way is about. It's about integrating virtue and best practices into your life, refining all of this as you go forward, so that literally in every 90-day cycle, you become a better and better and better person. Does that all make sense? I know I just went through major stuff.
Makes a ton of sense. I just want to interject, man. This is incredible. I'm sitting back and taking it in. Like I said, I'm your first audience member today. Anyone who's with us, thank you so much for tuning in, because this is we're getting a master class in the scope of an hour. So you got to realize that everything that Andrew is delivering on right now, there's 3 books about it. There's a real master class of information. So he's kind of like giving it through the fire hose right now, right?
Cliff Notes version.
I want to the Cliff Notes version, but pause for a second. Everything you just talked about, the one word that jumps into my mind is fulfillment, right? Fulfillment, because you can have it all on paper: beauty, fame, power, money, even family. But if you don't have connection and fulfillment in those areas, right? You can have a lot of money, but you're not happy with who you are as a person, and your family hates you or whatever it might be. You see some of that where you don't know someone until you get to know them, and then you're like, oh, they're not even happy. They talk about being happy, but they're truly, genuinely not happy. Yeah. So you see that. So fulfillment is that word. I think that success to me is consistent let me say that again. Success to me is consistent fulfillment over time.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And if you have that, I think that is definitive success. Everyone has their own definition. To me, I'd say that is exactly what it is. So being fulfilled for the right reasons over a long period of time. And then the other thing that you're talking about is having kind of a systems and best practices in place, right? Because something I've just learned last night, I was at a Tony Robbins seminar. One of his speakers came out from Syracuse, New York, up to Buffalo to talk about this, and it was the BS, but it wasn't bullshit. Okay, BS was best systems, I believe, is how he described it, right? So having or better systems in place, and that's what you're talking about. Outlined in the book are actual systems that you follow. And the third thing that I took away from what you just said is 90 days. You break things into more manageable amounts of time. You're not giving someone a year to solve it all. It's like a game board. You don't get to the end in one turn. You got to take different turns. You go 7 steps, 10 steps. You fall backwards a lot. You go forward a lot. And by the end of it, you just try to see who comes out ahead. But the thing I always talk about with the game of life, if you will, quote unquote, is I'm not against you, Andrew. I'm not against my neighbor. I'm not against anyone who's listening. It's really Mike versus Mike, right? And I think if we look at it that way, we can really make a better impact because we're just being the best version of ourselves. And I know that that's really what you're getting at. So talk about the importance of breaking things down in more segments and not trying to look too big. Like if you look at the big picture, sometimes it's really hard to dissect. So talk about that a little bit.
So much I want to say. It's like what always comes back to hurt us the most sometimes is what we don't know, right? So it's like this weakest link. I always go to that because when I coach people, whether it's an athlete or it's a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, whatever it may be, it's like I do a kind of a triage because you go through their life and it's always like, what is the worst part? What is it that you're missing that isn't up to par that's going to come back and hurt you? If it's your kids or your wife or it might be your business finances, and it could be anything. We need to work on that, but you can't just give up everything else, right? At the same time, I always use this analogy where it's like, you ever seen those guys with the plates where they have the sticks and they're balancing the plates on the sticks and they're running around like crazy? Life is like that. It's like my family, my health, you know what I mean? And if you don't keep those up, man, seriously, like you said, it can seriously ruin you. And that's the whole idea here is if we're going to become our best, we really need to cover all these different areas. And just to touch on something you said, I'm going to kind of go deep into the way. There's 7 steps to the way. Step 4 is called center, and it's about creating a complete and holistic core belief system, a moral code that covers all of life. Now, a lot of us, we think we have a moral code. I talk to people about this all the time. They don't even know what it really means. Like it's incomplete. They throw out a few virtues here or there, or family, or whatever it may be, which are really not a virtue or a moral code. It's a focus. It's a role that you're filling. So it's like we as humanity are a lot of times confused because we don't have a core belief system that will guide us throughout our life. And it's this core belief system that is kind of acts as a firmware, a computer firmware, where it is the lens you look through that determines what you think, how you view the world, how you feel. Pretty much everything that you are is determined by this centering your center, your moral code. And if you don't know what it is, you can see what's reflected in our world, right? It's very confused and everything else. So the 10 laws that I cover in this section of step 4 can save the world. And I say that because it's like every time I share this with people, there's 3 laws in here that if we just follow these alone, if people really embrace them, it can change the whole world. And I'm not going to do them in order, but I'm going to mention most of them right now. The first law is respecting life. This has to do with our world, the womb we live in. Like we need to take care of it because it takes care of us, right? It's not hard to think about this. It provides our food and our water and our air. And, we're like a spaceship flying through space. We need to make sure all our systems are working well. That should not be a big deal. And also, if you're religious and faithful, this is a gift to us, and we should learn how to care for it. The next law is all people are equal. This idea of equality doesn't mean you have to like everybody. Doesn't mean that you have to agree with everybody. It has to do with respect and equal treatment under the law and seeing other people as equals and creating systems that reflect this value. And the other one is treating people as we would want to be treated, which is the golden rule, which has shown up in every faith and every pretty much spiritual path throughout all of human history. These ideas of respecting life, seeing everybody as equal, and treating people as we would want to be treated. If you look at all the inequities of the world, whether it be the destruction of our environment, the way we're treating people and everything else, it will pretty much solve most of these problems if we really embrace these and they're reflected in our systems, right? Can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
the first two laws, to go back to what we're talking about, is like the primary purpose. So the first law is the primary purpose of life is to be your true self, live your true life, and go to heaven. And the second law is the true purpose of society is to become the true society. And I define what all those terms mean in detail within the book. But just briefly, the idea of you being your true self is and living your true life and going to heaven and creating this true society. It shouldn't seem that hard to understand that this is the ultimate goal. It's like, yeah, I want to become my ultimate self. I want to live my ultimate life. I want to live in an ultimate society, really great, and I want to go to the ultimate place after I die, right? It's like, of course, right? And it should
Right.
seem that way. That's what universal truth is all about. But that whole idea of you becoming your best, you living this life, you going to heaven, creating a better world, is at the foundation of every faith, of the whole idea of society, of the whole idea of having a family. You know what I mean? It's like, if you look at it, this is what our whole world is about, right? It's like, we all want to be our best. Yes, we all want to live our best life. We want to be happy. We want to be successful and not have all this horror happen to us. And when I talk to people all over the world, we all agree that we all want these great things in the world. We want functional business that doesn't destroy the world and isn't corrupted. We want government to work for us and not against us. We want a thriving ecosystem that isn't polluted and all the rest. There's nobody that disagrees with any of these statements. And if you boil down to it, the biggest problems in the world are really caused and have been caused by, a few hundred people and companies throughout all of human history. And it's the billions of us that are sitting around and letting these people do this because we just do not know how to organize properly and we're not on the same page regarding what we should be doing. So not only within the way do we talk about how you could be your best, but it's also about fixing our society, understanding wealth and power and business and government and how they're supposed to work and what they're supposed to be doing and how we're supposed to interact with them as a society. So for me, it's like, if we are going to be our best, we've got to create a better world, but we can't create a better world until we're our best. It's like this chicken and the egg thing. So this generation, we're going to have to take a bit of a leap and do all of this so that we can create this next step for the next group of people that are coming down the road. Does that make sense?
You know what I think too, Andrew, just to jump in for a second is we live in a world right now that's highly distracted. And I think some of it's intentional and some of it's just kind of a benefactor, or if that's the right word, of the fact is we got social media. Everybody's got not everybody, but many people have like 5 different social media channels, right? You're watching a YouTube video, you're kicking around between one and the next. Everything is 30 seconds coming at you. I mean, literally, you got Instagram stories are 15 seconds long. Everything is just real quick information coming at us. And basically, we're distracted. Whether you have ADHD or not, everybody kind of does now, because the way that systems come at us, whether it's TV or whatnot, everything is like in the moment, just coming very, very fast. Everybody, whether you're a CEO or an employee of a company, check your inbox. You're going to have 100 messages, because if you sign up for anybody's rewards card or whatever card, you're going to have all their drip campaign emails. So on a given day, we're going through hundreds of emails, no matter who you are. And so there's just so much content, so much information coming at us that we stay distracted. And that is when we're at our worst, because then we cannot focus on all the things we're talking about, putting the systems in place, bettering our health, bettering our lifestyles, bettering our businesses. We just kind of stay in this like status quo of just existing and doing the same thing over and over. And there's that Einstein quote that came up last night as well during the seminar was, do the same things and expect different results. That's insanity. And I don't think anyone intentionally wakes up in the morning and says, I just want to do the same thing again and hope that it's different. We don't say it, but it happens to the best of us. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the best of the best. I pointed at myself because I'm talking about me. I've actively been, in situations where I'm like, hey, I got to stop this. If I want to change it, I have to make a decision, making that decision to change it. And then a week goes by and it's like, man, the same thing happened again, because I ended up falling in victim of either my calendar or whatever. And it's because there's so much coming at us. So I didn't mean to interject as long as I just did, but I think it's important for our audience to realize, like, if you feel distracted, you need to go back, like what Andrew talked about a minute ago, your core, right? You got to get centered. We're going to actually take a quick 2-minute timeout because I know we got about 15 more minutes with Andrew here. So we're going to give our sponsor some love. And when we come back, Andrew's going to drive us home. So this has been awesome so far. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in 2 quick minutes. Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you, and that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight, and Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. Hey guys, it's Mike. I'd like to give a proper shout out to Navigator Bookkeeping. Look, for a long time, I ran my business without really understanding the full financial picture. I used my gut and my bank account balance to make decisions, which led to some poor choices and constant stress over my business's finances. I knew something needed to change. At the beginning of 2021, I made a decision that helped pave a more clear path for my business. I started working with Navigator Bookkeeping. Since then, my bookkeeping has been handled for me. I now understand the full financial story of my business, making important financial decisions much easier now, and it helps me plan for where my business is going. I highly recommend giving Navigator Bookkeeping an opportunity to help your business. Check them out at navigatingyourbooks.com. Again, that's navigatingyourbooks.com. It's time to know the full financial story of your business. All right, we're back in action with Andrew Calderella. And guys, remember, you can connect with him on social media. I have all those links clickable in the show notes, as well as his website, which is 7way.me. Again, the number 7way.me. That's also clickable for you. So I want to dive right back into what we were saying. You're kind of unpacking The Way, which is your amazing book, one of 3 books in the series. And I think we were on like point 4 or 5 right before we took the break. So if you want to continue, like I said, I'm going to kick back. I'm taking a ton of notes. And after this is recorded, I'm actually going to go back and listen to this and take even more detailed notes as well. What I love about podcasting is it's a university on wheels. Whenever I'm cruising around, I listen to a ton of podcasts. I will go back and listen to my show, not to hear myself, but to listen to my guests, because there's always these things that are like 3 months from now, I'm going to be feeling a certain way. And then, Andrew, what you're delivering today is going to help me then, right? And it's like this information isn't just good. It's not a golden nugget today. It's a golden nugget forever. So we can always go back and listen to these episodes, and it may find us in a moment when we really need it. And today you might be like, oh, that's just a throwaway statement. 3, 6, 10 months from now, whenever it is, we hear it and it just resonates differently. So that's what I love about doing this. You've been a tremendous guest so far. I'm going to let you dive right back in.
You know, just to play off on what you just said there, I think one of the biggest benefits of The Way and the trainings, the videos, everything else I'm doing is that people call it like a life manual, in the sense that it's something you want to go back and refer to, because, you know, in life, like you said, it's like you have your ups and downs, and you may or may not do things the right way all the time, and you might need a refresher. You might need a way to kind of get your motivation back, your inspiration back. For me, when I train people about this, I always show them how to find the clarity within, you know, this motivating factor, the inspiration to get up and do it no matter what. You know, I was hit by cars. I almost lost my leg when I was bit by dogs. One time when I was hit by a car, I was laid out for 5-7 years, and I was hit by another car, laid out for another 4 years. And this was in my 30s, in the prime of my life. I was working out, you know, doing martial arts, and I could jump 8 feet in the air, do a jump kick and everything. I couldn't even move after that accident without my spasming out in my back and being in agony. So, you know, these lessons, the reason I brought that up is that I want everybody to really realize that life goes by really fast. everybody I've ever talked to that is old, especially after 50, the people that are especially over 70, everybody says that life keeps going faster and faster and faster. You're going to be 70, 80 years old before you even know it. And when you're there, you're going to feel like you're still 25 years old in your mind, and yet your body's old. So what I want to say to you is that now is the only time for you to really start making this change. It can only happen in the moment. You can't just keep putting this off to some future date. You know what I mean? If you are going to be your best self, it can't wait. And just your commitment to starting down this path is what will take you there. Like when I was young and I, was caught up in suicide and revenge and this whole negative mindset, I knew I didn't want to be that way. And every time I talk with kids who want to kill themselves because of things that happen to them, whether it be bullying or whatever it is, or even older people that have been paralyzed, they just don't want to live anymore. There's this spark in them that does, that just wants this negativity to stop so they can really be this better person. And if you can show them how to take those steps, that is really the greatest gift that we can give to people, is to show people how they can stand up on their own and become their best self. You know what I mean? It's like, I love Tony Robbins, but I don't want to need his motivation. You know what I mean? I want to instill the motivation within you, because you're the one who's got to wake up and do it every day. And, God bless Tony and his billions of dollars and all the fame he has and everything else. I've gone through some of his programs, and what I found lacking in a lot of, Deepak Chopra's writings and all this stuff is that there isn't really a cohesive plan. And I mean, totally cohesive, that's going to work for everybody and help us all become our best and fix our world. And the biggest problem I see in humanity is that we all have pieces, right? You know some truths, man, but you're missing some. And so does she, and so does he. And the problem is it's those missing pieces that often come back to hurt us. So what I'm trying to do is just, try to create peace, try to create understanding, try to create your better body, your better mind, emotion, spirit, relationships and lifestyle, so that we can create a better world together, because it feeds off of each other. The society is a reflection of us. And if we don't have a better society, it also hurts our kids, right? It creates a confusing world. This idea of focusing and being distracted, once you understand your true goal and you understand all the pieces that you need to hold together in your life, and you have a daily way, meaning I have an outline of how you map out your day and you integrate these best practices and virtues into your life using a focus sheet and all this rest of this, that becomes your life. I mean, you know what I mean? You're not distracted anymore, because you are focused on becoming the best person you can possibly be. And you know exactly what that takes and how to fill your day with those activities. And then when you go to sleep, you know how to do that well. So then you wake up the next day and you do it all over again. You become better and better and better. And I think that
it becomes your identity. It becomes your identity, right? It's not something you're not just doing something to do it. It's part of you, right? Nobody has to tell you how to put your shoes on or brush your teeth. That becomes part of your. You do it just without thinking about it. And so, being a good person, being a person of service, and with the right mindset and mentality is something that gets ingrained into our belief systems. That's actually what it was. The BS I was talking about earlier was belief systems. The two, or the major thing that guides us into what we're doing. Is our belief systems. That's what can send someone down a negative path. And that's what can really send us down the clarity to get our goals. I didn't mean to.
No, you're fine. I have so many things go through my mindset. It's hard for me not to want to jump in. But this idea, like you said, brushing your teeth is a really good example. You could do it right, and do a bad job and end up losing all your teeth, or you could do it well, know how to do it properly, and have teeth for your whole life. And that's kind of the whole idea of the way, is that it's based in being human. We do certain things every day, no matter who you are as a human being. You sleep, you eat, you talk, you do all of these different things. And if you do them really well, it can help you become a better person. If you don't, it can help ruin your life and make you worse, right? So this idea of balancing all these different areas of your life out and learning the best practices, whether it be brushing your teeth or how to sleep or how to communicate, how to care for your relationship with your wife or your child, your business, your finances, whatever it may be, is what creates more clarity. right, is what creates more peace, because you know what you're supposed to be doing every day. You have a plan on how to be your best. You know how to nurture relationships and all these different areas. And honestly, when I share all this with people that have this confusion, and once you know the meaning of life, the true goal of life, you know what to do in relationships, you know how to eat, you know how to sleep, it's like, they're like, thank you. You know what I mean? Because now it's like, it takes away all of this mystery and confusion, and they know they were missing these things, and now they have them. And it's like, well, why am I, I don't need to feel confused anymore. And I think that this is where people look at me sometimes and they say, yeah, but that's been tried and failed in the past. And I'm saying, let me say it this way. I've had people read my book, or look at my book and say, everything's been done before. And, there's no way that this is new and everything else. And then months later, I've had people come back and say, you know what, I actually took your advice and I read your book. You kept telling me it wasn't the same. And you're right. It is the way for us to become our best. I showed this book to publishers when I shopped it around, and I didn't know all publishers know each other, but one of the publishers came to me afterwards and says, I just want you to know, we had a meeting about your book. And I was like, ooh, really? And he's like, yeah, all the publishers, a lot of them that you sent this book to, we all had a meeting. And I was like nervous. This is the first time I ever shared this with anybody of note like that. And he goes, first, I want to say that we've never seen a book like this before. It's written in a way that other books are not written. It's not endless stories where you get a lesson at the very end. It's literally information after another. And it's like an updated Think and Grow Rich, to where it's not just for wealthy people and how they thought they got their money, but it's how everybody can become truly successful. So I'm saying all this because I'm not doing this like to make money or I would like to make a living at this, obviously, so I can promote it and, do other things. But the idea isn't, I have other businesses I could have done that with. If we're going to be good people, we need to have this path. And I share this with people, and they keep saying that this is the way. So I'm trying to share it with you. And it's not just a book. Okay. It's not just videos. I also have the One Tribe, the One Movement, the One Party. And those are about places where we can actually unite to not only help us all become better people, but also fix our society. So do you mind if I touch on those real quick before we wrap? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the One
man.
Tribe, right now it's just starting on Facebook. There's 1 billion people on Facebook, so it's a good place to have it. I'm going to be launching that in other networks too. But the idea there is where we can all kind of group together. We can learn all these great things. We can share. We can make money together. We can have friends. We can join in events and all of that. So that's the One Tribe. The One Movement, if you look at our world today, you can see that there's like literally thousands of different environmental groups. There's thousands of different people fighting for civil rights of every different ethnic group you can imagine, or gender, or whatever, around the world, right? And everyone has to stand up and say, please, please stop destroying it, please. And the problem is, all these good people, we're so siloed, we're so divided, and we're so diluted. I mean, how many hundreds of billions of dollars have we spent, but what have we actually solved? Tell me, have we solved any big problem with all these environmental groups? The idea of the One Movement is to take all those groups, not to disband them, but to join them together in one massive group. Now imagine 1 billion people in this group that are donating $1, clicking on petitions, some people showing up here and there. 1 billion people, I could make a deal behind me. I could make a deal with Brazil to save the rainforest. We can make deals with the Congo. We can make international human rights a thing. You know what I mean? Standards of policing a thing all around the world. It wouldn't even be that hard with that many people, because businesses and governments are of the people. And if they want to exist, they have to do what we want. And if there's enough of us, they will. That's as simple as that. So,
yeah, it's that old power of the people, and it's the numbers are in our favor. And when you have enough people, and that's what I love about doing Mic'd Up, is I've interviewed over 140 people, and everybody has these positive missions. That's really what gets you on Mic'd Up. Is it's not just about you coming on and doing an infomercial today. You're not doing that. You're sharing your information that's helping people level up. And that's really what I'm looking to do with the show. But it's also connecting people with these positive mindsets and big hearts, and realizing that when we come together, there's so much power. We can do so much more together. Yeah. And it's really inviting our audience to say, hey, what can I do? What can I do? Is it donate $25 to a local charity in need? Is it just thinking about things differently, so now that person can mentally have a better positive impact in their family? We're talking about little shifts that add up. Not everybody's going to listen to our interviews and get the same out of it, right? Which is really cool. Everybody's going to kind of take it and put their own personal touch to it, or digest it differently, and go and do something with it, which is really cool. But it's all about that connection. The one that you're talking about, I really like, is that coming together, unifying, for good. That's exactly why I'm doing this. The initial mission of Mic'd Up was to inspire people to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. And then I felt like that wasn't really clear enough, because it was almost too simple. People would be like, well, what dreams? What with this, with that? So it's like, all right, well, now we're giving you the insights and tools so you can level up in whatever it is in life. A lot of people who tune into the show are entrepreneurial or looking to get into entrepreneurship. So it's really to give people the mindset and the belief systems, like we were talking about a minute ago, so they can unlock it. It's all there. Like, the universe wants to give us abundance. We just have to tap into it.
But I also think it's also about us gaining the right knowledge to be able to do it. And, it's like, and joining in the right way. The problem throughout human history is that we always wait until it's so bad, and then we have some type of revolution to overthrow the bad guys, and then we try to do it all over again, and it ends up the same way. We can't just, like you said, keep repeating the past and expect a different result. That's insanity. So if we're going to really change our world, we need a new path, a new way to do it. So it's the way and the one is what I say. So the way shows us the way on how we can actually become our best. It gives us our knowledge, create a better world. And then we join within the one tribe, the one party, and the one movement. I didn't mention the one party. The one party, just quickly, all over the world, you look at, especially all the democratic nations, publics out there, the parties are all mostly really old, right? And they're all very more like special interest groups, like the Labor Party, the Green Party, whatever it may be. They're focused on very specific issues, not necessarily on making the government run really well. And in America, because of our two-party system, it becomes the red-blue team sport war thing going on, and the extremists keep taking over, and we end up with this super hate fest in the United States of America, which isn't supposed to be. So what we need is a new party. I call it the one party. And it's about truly making government work well. It's taking, like you hear this all the time. Oh, these are conservative values. These are liberal values. They're virtues, being frugal and, respecting law, change, making good changes in society. All of these things we need to embrace. There are things that we need to keep the same because they're good, but they also need to be maintained if they're going to stay that way. And then there are things we need to change and refine and make better because they aren't good. The whole idea of America is constant improvement, right? The whole idea of the setup of this country was about liberty and tranquility and happiness and all the rest of it. So if we're going to do that, we as the American people have to get on the same page regarding some of these things. And really, truly, I mean, our parties are doing us a disservice by focusing on fringe issues instead of focusing on what government is supposed to do. I mean, we're trillions of dollars in debt. We're being told every day that we're more divided than ever. I mean, really what's happening in the world, if everybody can see it, is that there are a bunch of super rich people want to go back to kings and queens and divide up the world. The democracies do not work because we complain too much. We have too much power and too many rights. And super king people do not want us to have that. They want to take it for themselves. So don't look at this like it's red versus blue. It's really the people against the few. And the few own the media. They're programming us a certain way. They own the media and they own the parties. So they all work together to create this madness that we're seeing in our country. So we need a new party that's about sanity, about real solutions, about making government work well, and kind of getting away from this madness. Does that all make sense? I mean, one party, one movement, one tribe?
Yeah. Dude, we agree. We agree. Our mentality is very much in alignment with one another. So, I didn't know where we're going to go with this episode today, and I knew you were going to deliver fire, which you have so far. But yeah, absolutely, I agree with that, and that's why you have to. A lot of people still need to wake up and realize what's going on. And the frustrating thing for me is knowing that you're kind of like this. I don't want to really go into this because this could be another 5-hour episode in itself, but like COVID, for example, and really knowing what's true about it, what truths we're being told and what is being told to us to get us to act in a particular way. Don't want to go into it. I'm just simply saying, I know that there's more to all of that, right? That's it. This video is never going to air on YouTube.
No, it'll be. Let me just say this. I'll make it air.
But the idea, I just finish my thought is all I'm asking people is to kind of take Andrew's thought and do this one thing with it. Think for yourself, right? If something doesn't sound right, doesn't smell right, doesn't seem right, we live in a day and age where there's more information available at our fingertips than ever in the history of man. So there should be no reason that you're ignorant to a topic or situation. So go and get the information and make your own decision on it instead of just believing what's being
Well,
told to you
I
through
want
a
to say this,
device.
that the problem
That's
that
my
we're
two
having is
cents.
that there's contra information out there. There's conspiracy theories and untruths mixed in with the truths. And what we're finding is like our media, right? Like in America, it's owned by two super billionaire guys, right? And they decide the angle that everything's portrayed. So they only share part of the story. They try to make the other side always seem the most evil people you can possibly imagine, right? Demonizing everybody. This isn't news. I just want people to understand.
Right.
Opinion is not news. This half truth is not news. This is manipulation. It's propaganda. We should not call it news. One of the solutions, again, this is much bigger than a book. It's much bigger than all these three groups I started. Another thing I want to do is create the people's news, right? We seriously need an organization that is not owned by a couple billionaires deciding everything. We need something that is checks and balances. And like you said about COVID, we need to have not only the truth done, but every lie that has been told needs to be brought out and showed why it's a lie, not just calling people stupid for believing it and not just dismissing everybody. And there are truths in some of these things. And because the media is like, well, yeah, there were tainted vaccines that did keep people, but we're just not going to mention that because we don't want to confuse people. Then it just makes them out to be liars, right? So we need to have the full truth within context so people can take action instead of just blood and gore and fear and manipulation to get us to do what they want. And you're right, we could go on for 5 more hours. I think we need to do another show. I also want to do one on business. I have a lot of business.
I think we do another follow-up show, yeah. Amen. I mean, I knew an hour wasn't going to be enough time with you, Andrew. I'd love to have you on again, and I'm going to do that. I've had a couple guests on so far as a return guest, and you're going to be one of them, probably a regular on the show over time. I've done 140 consecutive episodes. I have not missed a week since November 4th of 2019. I do not plan on stopping anytime soon. I've had, my father passed away, my grandmother passed away. I've had some personal adversities come my way in the last 2 to 3 years. And I've always made it a point to still do my show. And it's not just to be stubborn and do it. It's because I know there's a lot of value in it. And I think of the one person that could be impacted and changed and improve on something in their life from tuning into that information. And so I'm really making sure that I'm consistently putting it out there. And I know it's the compounding efforts that I'm doing over time that are really going to make a difference. And I feel like even taking 1 week off could just put a hole in the armor, like a kink in it. And then all of a sudden there's like a gap. So I want to just consistently give that. I say that because I know you can come on the show again. I'm going to have you on in the very near future to talk about so much more. I do have one more question for you today. And then I'll let you get on to the rest of your day and let our audience get on to back to their distracted million things that are coming at them. There was something else I was going to say about truth coming out in the news, but I'm just going to hold that off for another day.
I have time. If you want to take more time, I'm open.
Unwound. No, it has to do with a whole nother topic. I'm just going to leave it off. Here's what I like to do. You're not actually an author. You got the beautiful book that you're showcasing today, The Way, but I want you to think about this a little differently for a second. So you're actually the author and protagonist in your own life story, and you get to write the ending. God willing, you live a long, prosperous life, and you're looking back and you're reflecting on it, and you get to define your legacy. What would you like that to be?
As in what I'm still looking to do? It's so big, I don't know if I have time to explain it all. One, I want to make the knowledge within the way, these ideas, especially all these major golden threads, common knowledge, meaning everybody knows. When they say I follow the way, I know the way, everybody understands what that means, meaning the goal of life, the true goal of life, the meaning of life, all the rest of that. I want to start these organizations and make them global powers, meaning the one party, the one tribe, and the one movement. I want to start these other organizations. I don't have time to go into all, but we mentioned the People's News. I mean, that's one of the 7 different systems we need to kind of set up to improve. So this idea of new governments, new systems in a world, making that solid and, with checks and balances in place so they can't become corrupted, and knowing that I left this legacy is what I'm after. And again, I just want everybody to know this is not about me. This has nothing to do with me. The only reason I'm doing this is because it's about all of us. It's about humanity, and it's about my mission with God and the promise of our creation. These truths can seriously change the world. And I just want to leave you with this. This isn't about me. It's about all of us. I said that. If you don't take action in hearing this, if you see that there is truth here and you do not join the parties and participate and everything else, you're part of the problem. You know what I mean? We as a society cannot be so
Exactly.
complacent, so jaded, so hurt that we won't take that step. When I was broken in that bed crying because I might not ever walk again, I still never stopped. And that's what I want all of us to feel. That's what I mean about being self-motivated, self-developing your life and your world. You know what I mean? It's like, it's up to all of us. I can't do this without you. And if you don't join me on the social media, join these groups, add your 2 cents, we're going to fail. You are the most important part, because it's all of us together that can make this happen. And without you, we got nothing. Does that make sense?
Bam. Mic drop moment right there. Andrew, there's so many mic drop moments. I say this quite a bit now because our guests are just so good, but it's going to be hard to cut this down to a promo, really, because you had an hour, basically the whole episode's a promo.
We'll take out little pieces. I'll do them too.
What you just dropped on us. Yeah, that was so good. But it's right. Like, if you're not taking action, you totally are part of the problem. And like, knowing that something's not right and not doing it is not doing anything about it is not as bad as someone who's doing something evil.
Well,
but it's not far behind it, because it's like, basically you're not
evil
pushing
wins,
back.
Dude,
you're
if
not.
Good
it's
people
like
do nothing.
The good versus
evil wins
evil.
If good people do nothing. Period. Because they are active,
exactly.
And if we sit back and just do nothing, we're going to lose. Period. That's just the way it works.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I think we're, not to speak for everybody, but I'm going to try to maybe understand it for a second, just to understand it, is that, I'll speak for myself, the lack of action sometimes that I notice within myself is usually because I feel like I don't know exactly, like, the right thing to do. So, but that's where I said earlier, just go and get the information. I've always been really resourceful, not so much previous to entrepreneurship. It really gave me this new skill of, like, if I run into a brick wall, I don't just stop. Like, a lot of people, I'm not going to try to call it friends and family, but I'll know, like, I'll be making plans with somebody, and, like, some kind of roadblock happens and everybody's just like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm the one that usually ends up finding the answer to it. Not because I'm looking for, like, oh, thanks, Mike, you're the hero. It's not that. It's just more so, like, in business, I run into roadblocks 15 times a day. So
exactly,
I have to figure them out. So when something happens at, like, a family party or whatever, and then we have to find a different location to throw an event, like, I just figure it out within 25 seconds because it's on my phone. I can just research it. So I think that happens again, but taking action, not being part of the problem by sitting by in idle standby, beep, boop, beep, boop. Like, you got to turn the damn thing off standby mode, take action. Andrew, I applaud you, brother. Here's the thing, guys. Thank you for being with us all the way to the end. But something we didn't talk about is, I've gotten to know Andrew a little bit over the 2 or 3 calls we've had together off camera. Andrew's a better person than he just presented himself as, because I know he's just a special, friend, family member. He's someone who takes care of his family, and his heart's bigger than he's out here to share. And I know he's a humble dude. So I just want to let you know, Andrew, I respect you so much as a brother, as a friend, and as someone who I really do look up to as a mentor. And not only that's you in a nutshell right there. But on top of all that, then you got the way, then you got the books, you got the cool stuff you're doing. So when you put it all together in one, that legacy you talked about, you're already doing it. And so for that reason, I just want to say thank you for being on the show. And I look forward to having you on very soon.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And please join me. I'm looking forward to meeting all of you.
Yeah. Do a little call out before you run here. So again, your website is...
That's the number 7,
say it again.
WAY.me. There you can learn about the way and the one party, the one tribe, the one movement. You can watch all sorts of cool videos I've been doing. I'm working on a show. It's called The One Show. That's going to be out. I've done a few smaller versions of that on the One Tribe. I got a network that's going to be syndicating that hopefully next year. I have to make time to sit down and do all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's exciting. And I'm really looking forward to joining with everybody and really making these changes happen. We can have fun doing this. This doesn't have to be such a horror show. It can be a hero story if we all just take actions. And it doesn't even have to be that hard. Remember, 1 billion people just clicking and giving $1 can change the world in a matter of a couple years. Seriously.
Right. Yeah. Power of the people, the compounding effect
Absolutely.
of a lot of people coming together. So many great insights today, Andrew. You over-delivered, man. More so, I knew you were going to drop a lot of gold today, but you did over-deliver. I'm going to have you on very soon. That was incredible. Thank you so much for your time being on the show. Everybody, you guys know what to do. There's BG on my hat. If you're new to the show, you don't know what that means. Be great, be grateful. And I'm rocking the Buffalo Bills Choose Love shirt today. Guys, choose love. Remember to love yourself and love your neighbor and your brothers and your sisters out there.
We're all one family.
We all, the world's a better place when we're one family, right? Lead with love. And thank you so much for tuning in today. I'd like to give a huge shout out to everyone for tuning in, especially those who listen all the way to the end to hear this message. Seriously, I appreciate you, and my guests do as well. Giving a quick reminder to subscribe to this show. It's completely free and will allow you to receive notifications when new episodes are released. If you'd like to provide a tip as a gift, you can do so via patreon.com/micedup. It's spelled MIKED up. Patreon.com/micedup. You can give as little as $1 per month or as much as you'd like. Every dollar is greatly appreciated and completely unexpected. Appreciate your reviews and your messages coming in on social as well. Keep them coming. Your feedback is valuable and absolutely means the world to me. You can check out more episodes and content at mikeduppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You can also follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active, and it's at Mike DiCioccio, MIKEDICIOCCIO. Thank you so much for your continued support. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.